Hello everyone, my name is Kassandra-Anne Demers. I'm delighted as an alumni of Cambrian College to be able to share some of my absolute favorite pieces with you all as part of a Cambrian College concert series. I'm currently recording from my hometown in Chapleau, which is a very small isolated town located in northern Ontario. So isolated that my beautiful grand piano had nearly traveled 1,000 kilometers from the nearest piano shop just to be delivered here. And funnily enough, on the day that it arrived, there was a moose just casually grazing in my front yard. And I just think that is the funniest and such a typical Northern Ontario story that I just can't help myself from sharing at any given opportunity. I'll be beginning my program by performing Claude Debussy's Suite Bergamasque, which is arguably one of his most famous works for the piano. Debussy began writing the suite at the age of 28 in 1890 and revised it over the course of 15 years until finally publishing the suite in 1905. The entire suite encompasses a growth in Debussy's unique compositional style that primarily focuses on the production of sound itself. The first movement, titled Prelude, serves as a lovely introduction to the suite, featuring many long flowing lines, fully exploring wide timbral color palettes and textures. In some moments, the pedal serves to blend interesting extended harmonies, replicating a similar wash of color, similar to the artwork of the Impressionistic period. If you look at some of Claude Monet's artwork, a famous French artist of the same period, you can visually see this effect of blended color only faintly showing the desired painted image. Debussy produces a similar effect in his musical world by purposely blending harmony with long and intentional held pedal, creating a new auditory landscape in its progression. This harmonic haze stands out as being a very unique, identifiable quality of Claude Debussy's compositional style. What's also interesting is when he repeats his musical ideas, he often warps the harmonic effect by changing as few as one note, creating a whole new sonic flavor. Let me give you an example of this in his Prelude. And then he repeats it again, but just slightly differently. Play it again in block form so you can really keep track of those differences. And then here again the second time. Be attentive to these details as Debussy uses this compositional technique in every movement of this suite. Keeping our ears attentive to these subtle details can help listeners appreciate the ingenuity and care Debussy takes on this sound exploration journey. The second movement, titled Minuet, has a light and playful character with a wide range of different articulations, dynamics, and technical demands. The staccato articulation is featured and then is often quickly contrasted with longer fluttering legato lines. It also incorporates sudden bursts of energy and rapid changes of character. This whole suite really does push any pianist in fully commanding the piano to create a wide array of effects and texture to convey exactly what Debussy specifically marked in his score. These demands are comparable to having to replicate an entire symphonic orchestra with only 2 hands and 10 fingers. A pianist performing Debussy's music needs to carefully, physically choreograph these musical demands in order to create this proper auditory landscape at only one instrument. The third movement, titled Clare De Leon, stands out as being very famous and recognizable amongst many listeners. I have a deep personal connection with this particular movement, as it may have been the first piano piece I was ever exposed to. As an infant, my mother had a cassette tape that she'd often play in my bedroom to help put me to sleep, which contained Claude Debussy's Clare De Leon. Growing up in a small, isolated town, I was not exposed to classical genres during my upbringing. However, I always had a deep attraction to the piano and would spend many hours obsessively teaching myself how to play this instrument. And of course, during my time growing up, I had no recollection of this childhood memory whatsoever. So after pursuing 10 years of post-secondary music studies, where I had the opportunity to learn to read music notation and refine my abilities as a pianist, one afternoon I opened up the score of Suite Bergamasque and just began tinkering away and playing Debussy's Clare De Leon. Nearly 30 years later, my mother immediately recognized it and told me that she'd play this tape containing this piece every time she put me to sleep in my first year of life. So, in a way, Debussy Clare De Leon just may have sparked my soul to pursue a career as a classical pianist and fall in love with this beautiful instrument. Who knows? It is undeniably a beautiful and enchanting piece that even those with no classical training could recognize and appreciate. The final and fourth movement is titled Passe-Pied, which is a type of dance. It is one of my absolute favorites to play, but it also stands out as being one of the most challenging of all four movements because of its quicker tempo and lighter staccato touch throughout the entire movement. Just like all its previous movements, it encompasses an enchanting quality, taking the listener on a memorable journey. I hope you enjoy my performance of Claude Debussy's Suite Bergamasque. Hello again. So I'll be playing another piece by Claude Debussy. This time I'll be playing Stomp. This piece literally means prince for its translation, and it was written in 1903. We could essentially interpret these three movements as three sonic paintings depicting images of nature and landscape influenced by different cultures and different types of music. So, Debussy had the opportunity to attend a world fair where he definitely had the opportunity to witness different performers from different cultures and as well as hear all these different types of music. We could definitely hear this instance in Pagode, where clearly we are hearing this Javanese gamelan influence where he uses the pentatonic scale and then he uses bell-like tones on the piano, which could imitate xylophones. And then we've got low resonating bass notes that could imitate resonating gongs in the distance. And again, he uses the pedal a lot in this to blend all these colors together, creating this beautiful wash of tonal color. Let me give you an example. In the second movement, titled La Soirée dans Grenade, we can clearly hear this habanera rhythm bringing everything together. We can hear the Arabic scale being used, and there are rapid character changes. Clearly there's an instance where he's taking the piano and all of a sudden we have to imitate a guitar strumming. So let me give you that example. And now this brings us to the third movement, titled Jardin Soulapui. This one depicts a violent rainstorm. You can hear the wind and almost these thunderous-like effects in the low end of the piano. This is all held together by a motif that comes from a popular French folklore song, which we know as Nous n'irons plus au bois. And this is how it goes. So this is all embedded within the texture, so I hope that you'll be able to hear all those little details in my performance of Debussy Stomp. more piece left on my program. I'll be performing Duck-Nanny's Rhapsody No. 3 in C major from his Opus 11 collection. Interestingly enough, this piece was written in the same year as Debussy's Stomp in 1903, but you'll soon see that both these pieces are very different stylistically. Duck-Nanny was a Hungarian composer. He was a pianist and also a conductor. He was heavily influenced by the music of Brahms and Liszt. His music and compositional style is often characterized as being neo-romantic. I'll be performing his third Rhapsody, but just keep in mind that it comes from a bigger collection, a collection of 4 Rhapsodies in total. And I highly encourage you to check them all out. They are just absolutely captivating works. Personally, I can imagine the Rhapsody No. 3 as being part of a Looney Tunes soundtrack. That's how interesting all these characters are, and it's just a little bit goofy too, and it's just so overall super fun to play. And anytime I get the opportunity to perform this piece, I am just so there. So I'm going to end with just some closing words. I just want to say how much of a true privilege it is to play some of my absolute favorite pieces for all of you, and especially to be invited back home to Cambrian College music, where for me that's where my studies began, and I am just forever grateful for the opportunities that I got there and that are still embedded in my heart as I continue my journey as a performing artist.